Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
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 Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
So we're reading from the Caitanya-caritamrita, Madhva Lila, chapter 1, text 265. Gopinata Patanaika Ramananda Brata.
Gopinata Patanaika Ramananda Brata.
Rajamarita Chela Prabhu Hilatrata.
Rajamarita Chela Prabhu Hilatrata.
Gopinata Patanaika Ramananda Brata.
Gopinata Patanaika Ramananda Brata.
Rajamarita Chela Prabhu Hilatrata.
Rajamarita Chela Prabhu Hilatrata.
Gopinata Patanaika Ramananda Brata.
Gopinata Patanaika Ramananda Brata.
Rajamarita Chela Prabhu Hilatrata.
Rajamarita Chela Prabhu Hilatrata.
Gopinata Patanaika.
Gopinata Patanaika.
Of the name Gopinath Patanaika.
Of the name Gopinata Patanaika.
Ramananda Brata.
Ramananda Brata.
The brother of Sri Ramananda Rai.
Brother of Sri Ramananda Rai.
Raja.
Raja.
The king.
The king.
Marita Chila.
Marita Chila.
Condemned to death.
Condemned to death.
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Aila.
Aila.
Became.
Became.
Trata.
Trata.
The deliverer. Translation. After this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saved Gopinath Patanaika, the younger brother of Ramananda Rai, from being condemned to death by the king. Om Gyanatinandasya Gyanandana Saragya Shakshur Militanyana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Gopinath Patanaika was an administrator and involved in collecting taxes, because that was the system of the Muslim government, that they would simply leave the local administrative order in place. They would not dismantle the whole system. They had a system where there were zamindars who were looking after a particular area of land, and then people depended on them. The only thing that changed was that the Muslim rulers wanted tax. So the zamindar, all these zamindars would stay in place if they would collect tax, and with the fear of the government, of the Muslim government behind them, the tax collection went very well, because, and in fact it went so well that these tax collectors were making a good profit. But at one point, Gopinath Patanaika fell a little bit behind in payments to the government, and he owed them just a little huge fortune. And what to do? So as a result, the king was made aware of this, and the king said, it should, no, the king did this. So the king said it should be recovered. But it was his son. His son had an issue with Gopinath Patanaika. He didn't like him. So, he came to Gopinath to recover the debt by force. And Gopinath didn't have money, but he had horses, really good horses, that were worth a lot. But then the prince took the horses and priced them very low. So then Gopinath became upset. And then Gopinath made some sneering remark that like his horses should be paid at a proper price, right? And that his horses had no problem with their neck. And now the prince, he had a thing where he would all the time sort of, when he'd speak, throw his neck back, whatever that meant. It hurts, ouch. Anyway, this prince was doing that, so then Gopinath said, well, my horses don't have any problem with their neck. Then the prince got very angry and reported to the king that Gopinath refused to pay the amount and that he had tried to recover it. Said, well, then punish him accordingly. So then he arranged for the Changa. And the Changa was a nice arrangement where they put some swords in the ground and put a person on a platform and then would throw him on the swords as a punishment. Kind of effective. And you can understand people were not too fond of the Changa. So the news was reaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Gopinath Patanaika has been arrested. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu basically said, well, what have I got to do with these worldly things? If he doesn't pay his debt, he should be arrested, what can I say? But Gopinath is now being taken to the Changa. Chaitanya is like, I'm a sannyasi, I'm like, what have I got to do with these things? But ultimately, when the king found out the truth, then the king actually was Maharaj Prataparuda. So the king was not at all, he said, no, I didn't want to take his life. Oh no. Hello, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not want him to die because he is the brother of Ramananda Rai. No. Therefore, the king absolved the debt and gave him a higher salary also. That at the end. But Lord Chaitanya was not satisfied with that. And he pointed out that he did save him because of the connection with Ramananda Rai, that nothing could ever happen to the family of Ramananda Rai. But he pointed out that Gopinath should not misbehave in this way. That's more or less the story. So we're seeing, yes, the protection of the Lord was there because of Ramananda Roy, because of a great devotee. But Gopinath was not actually deserving it. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu noted that. So his full mercy was not there upon Gopinath, Patanaika. Because a devotee, one may be a devotee, but one should still adhere to proper material standards and not take to criminal conduct. When a devotee becomes a criminal, that's not pleasing to the Supreme Lord. You say, yeah, but it's like, book distribution just didn't work. What could we do? We didn't make enough with that. So as of late we are hijacking and the returns are much better and the temple is flourishing. No crime. We are bound to act in the mode of goodness. A Vaishnava should not think that the result depends on him. He should understand that the result of the actions depend on Krishna. So therefore you don't have to take the law in your own hand. By honest means we just couldn't survive. So we were forced to take the crime. I didn't want it, but it just forced. There's no other option. See? So then, no, there is another option. The other option is to just turn to Krishna and let Krishna supply whatever he's. And if he doesn't supply, it's all right. Krishna doesn't supply. That's the way. So one should never, under material pressure, compromise one's standards just because of material calculation. It looks like impossible to go any other course. No, there's always the course. Take shelter of Krishna. And that is the essence for us in this narrative, where we say, yes, let us just always take shelter of Krishna. Now here in this portion of the Caitanya-caritamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is giving a quick summary of the later pastimes of the Lord. And that is the title of the chapter, The Later Pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. It is said that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was especially asked to write the Caitanya-caritamrita for these later pastimes. Because these were the pastimes that no other biographer had described. It wasn't known, because they were from Navadvipa. But somehow or other Krishnadas Kaviraj appeared a little later, and therefore Krishnadas Kaviraj had information about what happened in Puri. And he had heard it from Raghunath Das, who had been there. And Raghunath Das furthermore had heard from Sarup Damodar Goswami, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in the introduction to his Brahma Samhita commentary that Sarup Damodar instructed Raghunath Das into his diary. So that's a very significant thing. So this way Raghunath Das was an authorized representative of Sarup Damodar. Now Sarup Damodar is like basically a very formative personality in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. For example, I was discussing the other day for a moment the Panchatattva and how Lord how Sarup Damodar gave us the concept of Panchatattva. When I quoted that verse, Panchatattvamakam Krishnam Bhaktirupa Sarupakam, which was found in the Gauraganades Deepika, I didn't elaborate on it, but basically that verse is a verse of Sarup Damodar, not of Kavi Karnapur. And Sarup Damodar explained Panchatattva, that the Lord appears in 5 features, and he said Krishna also appeared in the same 5 features before. So with Krishna we also see Swayam Bhagavan, the original personality of Godhead, then his Vaibhava Vilas forms, his Swarupakam, his self-same form, expansion like Balaram, and then the avatars, so many avatars from Krishna, Guna Avatar, Rupa Avatar, Lila Avatar, and so on, all these avatars. And then we go to the Shakti Tattva. We have Srimati Radharani, Ladini Shakti, the Gopis, the Astasakis, also Ladini Shakti, so many personalities, actually Shakti Tattva. And these are known as Ragatmika Bhaktas, and then we have the Jivas who become Raganuga Bhaktas, who follow such Ragatmika Bhaktas. So in this way, we see Panchatattva also exists with Krishna. And that's logical because there is no difference between Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. But it is not always understood. But Gauraganades Deepika explains actually Panchatattva, which I repeat from time to time because I feel that it is essential. That's our main deity. In Mayapur, the biggest temple that we have, our world headquarters, the central deities are the Panchatattva. And what's that all about? 5, Lord in 5 features. Okay, could you explain that in a little more detail? So, what Krishnadas Kaviraj did when he started to write the Caitanya-caritamrita, he writes at the end, "It is a miracle that I am writing." He said, "I am old, my eyesight is gone, my hand is shaking, it's like my memory is finished. How can I write this book? It's not possible." So he's taking it that the Lord was actually dictating it, and that in that way he was able to do. Just like Srila Prabhupada would say about his purports, and Srila Prabhupada would sometimes read his own books as if he was reading another book, and then someone would say, "Oh, Prabhupada, you're reading your own books, because these are not my books. These are Krishna's books. He dictated them." So in this way we are appreciating that Krishna is involved in the whole thing. So Krishnadas Kaviraj was somehow or other aware of Sri Damodar's diary. He was aware of the later pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, and therefore, and he was a very learned representative of the Goswami philosophy, because he had spent adequate time with the Goswamis in Vrindavan. Therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj was the most qualified personality to write about the later pastimes of the Supreme Lord. However, there was one issue that interfered with that, and that was his old age. And since he was at such an advanced age, he wasn't sure if he was going to finish the CC. Therefore, he decided that before he would elaborate on the pastimes, at least he would quickly list them in quotes. Srila Prabhupada calls it in quotes, in summary, in a summarized form, quickly. So that basically the whole outline is there. So here we go from verse to verse, from pastime to pastime, and it jumps really quick. We just had Gopinath Bhattanaika, and then the next verse starts about Ramachandra Puri, who criticized the Lord, and that's the whole story again. So, what can we say? So we see that in these verses, in these pastimes now, we see a sequence of devotees who did not do properly. First we see Gopinath Bhattanaika, who's not properly dealing with the Supreme Lord. And then you get Ramachandra Puri. And Ramachandra Puri had this habit of somehow or other criticizing devotees, and particularly about their eating. And he also would sort of invite them to prasadam. Then he would force them to eat, like forcefully serve. And then after he would see, now it's confirmed. I can see that the associates of Chaitanya are indeed eating too much. I heard about it, but now I'm seeing it with my own eyes. And then we see that from his critical mentality of criticizing the devotees of the Lord, that eventually he criticized the Lord also. And coming in his room, and there were ants in the room of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's saying, this sannyasi is acting very austere, but I can see that he's secretly eating sweets. That is why there are so many ants in his room. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cut his eating in half. Then all the devotees cut their eating in half. And all the devotees were very unhappy. So this situation came, and of course, Ramachandra Puri was greatly unfortunate, because he due to his offensive attitude, although he came close to the Lord, face to face with the Lord, he couldn't recognize him. So this is the difficulty. Yes, that offenses, they cover our consciousness, they cover our knowledge. When we start blaspheming the Vaishnavas, then we may feel that we know exactly what we're talking about. You don't tell me anything. But this is just illusion. By illusion we think we know, but the truth of the matter is that we become more and more covered and know less and less as we are committing offenses. So in this way, Krishna's Kaviraj, in this particular portion of the pastimes that he's listing, is listing the items that need to be avoided. Basically, Krishna consciousness means that smartavyam satatam vishnu vismartavyo najatu sid sarva vidhi sedu shura ityo ita kinkaram. There are vidhi and niseda. There are positive injunctions and prohibitions. Things to give up, things not to do. So here Krishnadas Kaviraj is emphasizing things not to do. And gives the examples of these personalities. So, yes, some things we have to restrain ourselves. Because we are caught between the higher and the lower nature. And because we are caught between the higher and the lower nature, we cannot be completely spontaneous. One who is caught between the higher and the lower nature may sometimes fall prey to the lower nature, and then may say things that are offensive. Therefore, Vaishnava etiquette is emphasized, that in dealings with Vaishnavas, we must be respectful. That is emphasized, so that we don't inadvertently, that we don't blaspheme or criticize or all these things. That we do not, or like in the case of Gopinath Patanaika, that we do not pay attention to living a moral life, and that we get on the wrong side of things, and that we get materially compromised. And basically, he just needed a bit more money, and he just didn't pay. He didn't pay the king. That was, of course, not acceptable. He had to pay. He's collecting on his behalf. So these things were going on. And so we have to be conscious of what to do and what not to do. Pravitim cha nivritim cha. What to do and what not to do. And that is essential. So the 64 angas, or the 64 limbs of bhakti, which are outlined in Nectar of Devotion and also outlined in the teachings through Sanatana Goswami, these 64 limbs are consisting of that, of pravitim cha and nivritim cha, of things to do and things to avoid. So Caitanya-caritamrita is not only giving these principles, but is elaborating on them by actual examples, because we see that in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates that sometimes his associates stepped over the line, which is obviously a warning for us to not step over the line. Okay, we'll read the next verse. Brahmanda Vitraya Choda Bhuvan Vaise Jata Jivagan. There are 14 planetary systems within the universe, and all living entities reside in those planetary systems. Manushir Veshadari Yotrikir Chole Prabhu Darshan Kore Ashe Nilachale. Dressing like human beings on pilgrimage, they all used to come to Jagannath Puri to visit Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So now this very transcendental vision of the holy Dham and how the demigods and other exalted celestial beings are taking a human form and how they mix with the pilgrims that are visiting Jagannath Puri. This is an old Vedic principle. Just like when someone comes to your house, there is Atiti Bhagavan, that principle. That some stranger comes to your house and you have to consider that maybe he's the Supreme Lord in disguise who's come to my house, and you should treat him like that, just in case he is, or some other great personality, Atiti Bhagavan. So in this way, every guest is treated with the greatest honor. Now that is all part of prescribed behavior. That is social prescribed behavior. So, social behavior where we are accepting a certain code of behavior, prescribed activity, is purifying and is important. But also difficult, because in this age we more and more just want to act according to our own impulses, according to whatever we feel. I don't feel it, and if I don't feel it, then I don't want to do it. Yeah, because then it's not real. It's only what I feel is real. No, because that philosophy is faulty. And only what I feel is real. I want to be more authentic and therefore get more in touch with my feelings, and in this way live my life closer to my heart. That is the real way to live. No. I thought you were a spiritual personality. I thought you were going to say, yeah, that's it. Cool. No. Because we have the higher nature and the lower nature. So we don't know. Not every feeling is positive. I have given the example that when I'm driving, that I want a button on my dashboard where I can zap cars that drive crazy. Some crazy car cuts me, for example, and I want this button. A laser beam shoots out and the car turns into ashes. So he deserves it, for driving like that. Those tendencies are there, but maybe that's the lower nature when I think about it. Maybe I should not give in to this button idea. Maybe I should conquer this and just leave it. So, in this way, it says Utvegana Diva. There is an injunction in the Vedic literature that says, do not cause anxiety to any living beings. I said, well, it's only quick, a zap, he's gone. No, still, this is not enough. Someone used a spray can on a fly the other day in front of me and said, I'm only paralyzing him, and then threw him out of the window and said, I saved him. But this is not so. Udveganadipa. To not cause any anxiety, to not cause any suffering. That is a Vaishnava principle. So it takes an effort. So we see lower nature, higher nature issues exist. They happen. Yeah. And we're in between. So the Vaishnava etiquette helps us to choose for the higher nature. That's why Vaishnava etiquette is relevant. to us, and we learn how a Vaishnava should behave and what a Vaishnava should not do and what he should do. And we're encouraged to offer obeisances to devotees, like just so that we develop that humility and respect and so on. Anyway, I won't give a whole list of Vaishnava, of Sadachara, Vaishnava behavior. So now we're reading about the 14 planetary systems and how some of the demigods will also visit Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ekadina Srivasadi Yata Bhaktagan Mahaprabhu Gunagana Karena Kirtan. One day all the devotees headed by Srivas Thakur were chanting the qualities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shuni Bhaktagan Kaya Shakruda Vachan Krishna Nama Guna Chaliki Kaya Kirtan. Not liking the chanting of his transcendental qualities, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastised him as if he were angry. What kind of chanting is this, he asked. Are you leaving aside the chanting of the holy name of the Lord? Yeah, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Madhya Lila is especially in his Acharya Lila. There he is acting out the role of a teacher. When he is in the house of Srivas, he's not always acting out the Acharya Lila, then he's more acting out his internal Lila. In the house of Srivas, all the devotees know that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore they are relating to him as a transcendental personality. So, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a transcendental personality, may not always teach like an acharya, just like Krishna himself. Just like Krishna himself is sometimes stealing, which is not moral, but because Krishna is doing it, it's ecstatic. So Krishna is transcendental to morality, whereas Lord Ramachandra is always following Dharma and never deviating from it. So Lord Ramachandra is teaching how a human being should act, and Krishna shows what it means to be transcendental. So sometimes Lord Chaitanya is acting completely transcendental to mundane morality, and other times he's acting as an acharya, and then he's teaching how to act according to prescribed duty. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the internal mood, he is just totally transcendental. Like at one point before sannyas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Navadvip, and at one point he was in the mood of separation from Krishna, in the mood of Radharani. And what the gopis were going through, their feelings of separation. So in the course of that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was just chanting Gopi, 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 instead of Hare Krishna. So someone walked past and said, what is this? What is this? Look at this. He's chanting Gopi, 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 instead of, Hare Krishna. Who does he think he is, What is this? And in this way criticized Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not understanding that at that state he was in an internal state of consciousness, and therefore expressing himself spontaneously and no longer following prescribed religious principles which are stating that we should chant Hare Krishna. So that's a symptom of his extraordinary state of consciousness. Yes. So in this way we see in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu this alternating between being in the internal transcendental state, and other times he's in the acharya mood and he's the teacher. So in the Madhya Lila, he is oftentimes the acharya in teaching. In the Antya Lila, he is more in the internal state and sometimes acting as the teacher. But so we see these two. We see him in the internal state when he jumps into the ocean, thinking it to be the Yamuna, and floats away, and meanwhile thinking of water pastimes of Krishna in the Yamuna, completely absorbed. And then he gets caught by the fishermen and pulled onto the land and all these things. So that's an example of his internal mood. An example in the Antya Lila. In the Antya Lila we also find examples of his mood as his external mood, of acting as an acharya. When, who is this Jaga? Who is Jaga? Jaga is just a boy. Does he think that he can instruct you, Sanatana Goswami? I am coming to you for advice. And this Jaga is advising you to go to Vrindavan? Ha! This upstart. Who does he think? I'll never accept anyone's service who's not adhering to sadachar, to Vaishnava etiquette. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. So like this, now we see how spiritual life should unfold. And that since we are not yet on the fully realized platform, therefore we cannot just go in our own internal mood and just follow the heart. And that this would be more authentic. No. Yes, some authenticity in terms of connecting with our feelings may be there, but we will only pursue those feelings that are part of the higher nature, and we will ignore those feelings that are of the lower nature. And how to recognize? Simply by taking shelter of Sada Achar, because prescribed Vaishnava behavior will help us to avoid the lower nature. I mean, that's the idea. Otherwise, what to do? The lower nature is still a major problem in our spiritual life. From time to time, it takes over. Okay, so in conclusion, as long as we are not liberated, Sada Achar is important. Once we are liberated, then we are transcendental to that. So any questions or comments? I mean, this brings up the whole theme of authenticity, which is an important theme. Because when spiritual life is not authentic, if it's only duty, then quickly it becomes heavy duty. And heavy duty doesn't last. So we need to find a way to express our nature, but we also must realize that we have a lower nature, that we are affected by lust, greed, anger, illusion, madness, envy, and that then these things need to be controlled. So, how to deal with that? Controlling our lower nature and being authentic at the same time. That is the question. Now, do you have any questions?
We were studying the verses are out of sequence in one sense. The pastime of Ramachandra, Ramachandra Puri becomes actually verses in reverse. We were studying this last week. So the question came up that actually this personality, Ramachandra Puri, is actually Kirtila. Because the whole thing comes that he does this, but then it seems to be his life just goes on. He doesn't repent. Because normally when there's something inappropriate in the dealings with Mahaprabhu, the realization is there. Like he studied also Bhagavata. He got the realization that he was too proud. But in Ramachandra Puri's case, he never got the realization. There was never any correction. So is that because he's Shatila from the
Yeah, but I mean that's a fair explanation. You're offering that explanation, and I would just could be, possibly, because I mean here we are looking for possible explanations, and I mean then Krishna's Kaviraj himself says, "Who am I? I cannot understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." So when we start offering explanations, we should no. But I'm saying it's a plausible explanation, but a plausible possible explanation. And as such, I would say, we can edit on. Why did Ramachandra Puri not come to repentance, to insight and repentance? Yeah. And maybe he did, because we also don't have the Ramachandra Puri Samhita or something, which describes every detail of the life of Ramachandra Puri. We don't know so much. We just know Ramachandra Puri appears on stage, so to speak, and then he doesn't play a major role, and we are not going, and then he goes off stage, and we're not seeing the whole life of Ramachandra Puri unfold, or his next life, or this or that. But we do hear that he was Jyotila. Still, we have to see the offenses that he's making are not just Leela, because then it's just Leela, he's Jyotila, so he's actually, it's his service to criticize it. As Jyotila's service, it's her service to criticize. No, in this case, he's actually making offenses. He's actually really making offenses. And you'd say, and he should actually really go through some reactions. Yeah.
This past time with Ramachandra Puri, it amazes me the Lord Chaitanya's behavior towards him, being God brother, his spiritual master. So I don't know if it's okay to ask this question.
No, it's very good to ask the question, just clarify a little more.
I was just wondering
which aspect of his behavior towards his Guru's God brother is
he always
are you referring to?
The greatest respect.
Yeah.
It's the same as to his spiritual master. So I was just wondering, being your disciple and what's our mood towards Srila Prabhupada's disciples?
Well, Srila Prabhupada's disciples are especially graced by Krishna, that they got this opportunity to become Srila Prabhupada's disciple. And that's not a small thing. So we don't forget that in our dealings with Srila Prabhupada disciples. Doesn't mean that everything then is whitewashed, that they can do anything and it's automatically all beautiful and all perfect. No, it's not. Not always. That we see also, we encounter that. So when we see behavior in a superior that is contradictory to a scriptural Vaishnava standard, then when it is not too much, then we may keep a respectful distance. When it gets too much, then in the Caitanya-caritamrita it is said, then we may respectfully point out the deviation. Respectfully, you say, but oh, how does this work in the scripture? We see this in this standard, and you've mentioned this. It leaves me very confused. Could you please clarify this? Not saying, hey, you're totally off the wall. It's like you lost it. Although one might think that, but no, we don't say like that. Thoughts are different than what we say. We'll say, oh, very confusing what you've just mentioned. Could you please clarify? So that should be, since we are Vaishnavas in a conditioned state, we cannot just blurt out everything that comes up in our head. So, when in the head comes, hey, you're off the wall, then we can't just say, you're off the wall, right? We can't say that. Oh, what you say is very confusing. Could you please clarify? But we may not be habituated to act like that, to act with that kind of culture, to sort of, we may just be habituated to blurt out whatever we think. But that could get you in trouble, because then we could inadvertently be disrespectful, because even if a Prabhupada disciple is wrong, and that may have to be pointed out, we still have to be respectful. I'm trying to balance those things in my life. In my life it can also be complicated. Sometimes I'm the guru, I have so many disciples, and in that way socially in a senior position, but yet, they are senior to me by initiation. So I keep that. I'm respectful in my dealings, always. And don't forget. Yes.
Did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ever play a musical instrument? Like maybe Krishna with a flute or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't recall it being mentioned anywhere. No. I do recall it being mentioned that he was singing, but musical instruments, no. Didn't read that. That's all. Doesn't mean that he never did, but it's not recorded.
Marge, with the difference between the higher and lower nature and how we can have feelings in both, you mentioned that the etiquette would help us rise above our lower nature.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we can be within etiquette and still express our lower nature.
Yeah.
Is etiquette enough?
If you're expert, you can do it. If you really want to. No, I'm saying that will something slip through the net? Like, now you've got a net on your head, and what if a hair will slip through the net and wind up in the tomatoes? We hope it won't happen. Anyway, the net of Vaishnava etiquette is a pretty good filter. And if we combine that with intelligence, we don't just go on automatic pilot, but we can combine that with intelligence, then that will safeguard us from the lower nature. But intelligence is needed. You know what I mean? To watch it, to watch our lower nature. We know we've got it, got to keep an eye on it. She looks at me with a face from, she's not satisfied with the answer. Huh?
I'm good.
Okay. Yeah.
Maharaj, is there any circumstances that will require us to give up mundane morality for high principles?
It could be, it can occur, but it must be considered very carefully. And if we are not so senior, ourselves are so experienced, then we might have a bigger chance. We make a wrong judgment there. So then we better consult where possible. But yeah, we see like in Prabhupada's case, in Vrindavan, the bank transferred a large amount of money into his account. So the bank manager is very nervous and came to Prabhupada and said, "We made a mistake." And Prabhupada said, "It was not a mistake." And he wouldn't give it back. That was transcendental morality. It's an example. No, we don't imitate this. Well, but if someone does put a lot of money in your bank account, you can, by accident, you can contact me. Don't give it back before you spoke to me. But it's just kind of shocking that Rama said that, isn't it? It's like a little bit like, wow, It's just like, but that's what he did. Transcendental morality. Anyone? No. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Caitanya-caritamrita ki jai.
Kadamba Kanana Swami.